Huge win for the Texans, and I am extremely excited. Let's get into it. Lance Hayes, Sports Social Live. Let's go. Let's go. Houston Texans with a great comeback, hard-fought win over the Cincinnati Bengals. And I said Bengals, almost Bungles, but phenomenal, hard-fought win for the Houston Texans. They went in and they did what they had to do to get the dub out of the Bengals. And while I'm correcting the score I had up there, so Houston wins. Houston wins 30 to the Bengals 27 in a hard-fought win. The team grinded out, to the last minute. Two last-minute scores for 2 weekends in a row for consecutive weekends, and the Texans are balling. I was really surprised with how the defense played this game. I think that's one of my biggest takeaways for the game, but we'll go through that. Through this episode, we'll talk about the Houston Texans versus Bengals win, the good dub that is the win, the hard-fought win. We'll talk about the game plan that Slowick had. I like the game plan that he had. He stuck to his fundamentals. We'll also talk about that bend but don't break effort, and then we'll talk about what I like to talk about a lot in the X factor is the special teams. So, the Houston Texans beat the Cincinnati Bengals. Both teams were on an uptrend going into this game, and Houston was able to capture the dub in Cincinnati. This is a great win for the organization, let alone for this year. I did not have the expectations for the Texans to come in and get a win like this or kind of set a tone going forward and be above 500. 500, I was like, all right, cool. We get 500, fine. But this win right here puts us in a different trajectory as far as our turnaround for our organization, I feel. Hopefully, if all things stand the test of time and we're able to go forward from here with minimal injuries, it seems like we'll be great going forward, and on the backs of a good infrastructure built by D'Amico Ryans, good offensive play calls by Slowick, and then you got the defense and offense just balling. The team's mentality has changed. That bend but don't break is there. The swarm mentality is on the offensive side too. That pressure doesn't burst. The pressure burst pipes type deal is out there. I love what the Texans are doing. And it's all what I think I have to just talk about is Bobby Slowick's game plan. He was going to run advantage of what him. And I like to talk about Bobby Slowick's game plan. Slowick took what the Bengals gave him. He's going in against one of the best defensive coordinators, future head coaches in Anaromo. And Slowick took what the defense gave him, which was one of the bottom run defenses in the league, and we got our run game started with Singletary. Singletary had one of his best games of the year. For as far as rushing, one of the Texans' best game of the year. Singletary had 30. He went 30 for 150 throughout the year, which is a great stat because I didn't see that coming from the Texans personally. So shout out to Bobby Slowick for calling a good game for the Texans and Singletary for grinding out those yards. A couple of those first downs and those 4-yard hard runs that he got, he was grinding those out. And shout out to Dieter. Dieter was carrying them forward. The offensive line digging in the trenches. You can see after the plays, they were pumping each other up, high-fiving, and getting ready to go. The offensive line also was pumping CJ Stroud up when he threw that second interception. You saw a clip of Laramie Tunsil dap him up like, hey, let's go. It's time to score on these last-minute drives and whatnot. Hey, the bend but don't break mentality is there, and I'll discuss that a little bit later. But Singletary, Singletary, let's go. That is how you run the ball. That is how you get active. The receiving core down the field blocking for the run game, phenomenal. I like what I saw there. I like what Bobby Slowick did. Kudos to the offense for staying in the pocket. CJ Stroud, We did have some fumbles, we did have turnovers, but bend but don't break was there. Which leads to my next section that I wanted to talk about. Bend but don't break. Bend but don't break. How do you not see that in this team? I talked all week about the Texans conquering adversity. I have a clip that I posted previously before about conquering adversity. But this bend but don't break mentality of the Texans is going throughout the organization. This week, they started off the week with 23 injuries to Cincinnati's 8. 23 people on injury report. That's crazy. Got to the game, you had about 7 people officially ruled out, and they balled in the game. Just because you're off the injury report does not mean that you're healthy. So the Texans went in the game with 23 people bruised and battered into this game, and take away 7 from 23. About 14 of those people played or got action in this game, or were out. But it's crazy to see how they were able to bend but don't break, and that was throughout the whole time. I mean, one guy for instance, C.J. Stroud, had a turnover, fumbles, threw an interception. He bend but didn't break, and I liked what I saw from the team. I liked that they did a lot of kind of digging deep here, and you can tell that that's the culture that's being built here. The swarm mentality. The swarm mentality on defense. Perriman kind of got worked a couple of times. Got some calls against him. Perriman did what did. I mean, he was trying his best against a good receiving core, but every time Perriman had a mess up, something happened to him. What happened? The defense swarmed around him to pick him up. That bend but don't break swarm mentality that's instilled in the team. So shout out to D'Amico for instilling that swarm mentality, bend but don't break. I said that 1,000 of times, but I mean, it was good to see as a former athlete, just seeing that mentality. You can tell when a team has the it factor, and it's all trickling down from the coach that has that mentality as well. You don't see D'Amico talking about the injuries throughout the week. You don't see him making excuses for anything. He has that mentality that he's going to do the best he can with what he has and not change their foundation that they laid. So shout out to the Houston Texans for getting that dub and keeping the mentality that they do have. My next topic I'll talk about is the last topic of the day, because I'm getting these quick thoughts off before I go start my day over here in Japan. Special teams, the difference, maybe the difference, but special teams was the difference for this game, and I'm excited that we were able to see Matt Amendola step in and kick a field goal. That was amazing for me. It was amazing that we saw that difference in the special teams game. You also saw Tank Dell get back there popping off runs. You saw us digging deep, running down the field. Ogunwale had an amazing hit down the field. That coverage factor, making Cincinnati start back, and we had good field position. A good amount of time. I mean, they didn't do bad, and I'm okay with how they played, especially when we need to revamp and we had a lot of injuries. So that punt return, that punt coverage was great for our team. Matt Amendola had the pressure on him to win the game, and he did. He kicked it and got it through the goalpost. So you see that they had the bend but don't break mentality. You see the good game plan from Slowick, and you see the Texans come out with the win, 30-27 against the Bengals. How can you just debate anything that's going on in Houston? How can you debate the culture change? How can you debate the infrastructure that has been built? Casario might have got saved with this good kind of change that's going on, because it looks like we are trending in the right direction in a time frame that nobody predicted. Will the Texans be able to sustain this upward trend, this upward momentum? I think they can. So let's go through a couple of stats that the Texans had for the game. I'll bring that up really quickly. Some of the stats that the Texans had this game. You see Joe Burrow went 27 for 40, 347 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. CJ Stroud went for 23 for 39, 356 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Devin Singletary balled out 30 attempts for 150, and then he trumped Mixon 11 attempts for 46 yards. Balled out. Shout out to Devin Singletary for kind of playing a great game. These stats don't say much, but you got to go down to like Noah Brown. Noah Brown had 7 receptions for 172 yards. Then Dalton Schultz coming back in the fold, 4 receptions for 71 yards. Hey, they balled out. And Tank Dell had 6 for 56. 6 for 56, but he dropped 2 big passes. He was overthrown a couple times with those targets. But shout out to the team for the bend but don't break mentality. Shout out to the Texans. What do you want to see from the Texans going forward? How do you see the Texans playing next week? So that wraps up this quick episode of Sports Social Live. I'm Lance Hayes. Subscribe, share, follow, like, all that. Thumbs up. Good stuff. Good win, Texans. Let's go.